Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and we basically have an arms race going on right now in the ARPG world. Diablo 4, Path of Exile 2, and Last Epoch all dropping major teasers and announcements about their upcoming content. For Diablo 4, we got the reveal of the Season 10 theme and its Chaos Armor, as well as a leak of what the next class is. For Path of Exile 2, we got a teaser and name drop for the next major update, the Third Edict. And for Last Epoch's Season 3, Primal Hunt, we learned all about the Breed Your Own Boss mode. But that's not all we'll talk about this week. We've got updates on a few stories we've previously covered, including payment processors censoring games, the Krafton versus Subnautica founders lawsuit, and the Sony versus Tencent copyright lawsuit over Horizon Zero Dawn. Timestamps below if you want to skip ahead, but don't forget to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes. But before we get deeper into Diablo, let's talk about a game that has one of Diablo's most requested features, fishing. We're talking about this video's sponsor, Isekai Slow Life. You ever have one of those days where you just want to run away from your responsibilities and start a new life? Well, now you can, except you're a mushroom. Yeah. In Isekai Slow Life, you get isekai'd, classic anime style, and wake up as a tiny mushroom person in a fantasy world. But instead of slaying demons or saving the world, your job is to build a peaceful life from scratch. You're managing a town, you've got a restaurant, a farm, a workshop, even a hot spring. You can fish, cook, run shops, and gradually grow your little community into a thriving fantasy village. It's simulation meets slice of life. Now, this being anime, yes, you meet a lot of beautiful and bizarre characters, and instead of just collecting them, you build actual relationships with them. Think daily interactions, bonding events, and unlockable storylines. There's even a full-blown million-word narrative packed with charming dialogue, unusual customs, and unexpected humor. If you ever wanted the relaxing vibe of Stardew Valley, the eccentricity of an anime isekai, and the personality of a mushroom, well, you're gonna love this. Download Isekai Slow Life using my link below to support the channel, and make sure to redeem the gift code MUSHRUM, that's MUSHRUM, and you'll get 10 free item draws right off the bat. It's available on iOS and Android. Try it out, build your mushroom empire, and live the slow life. Starting off with Diablo news, we got word this week that there would be no Campfire Chat dev livestream for the upcoming Season 10 test server. Adam Fletcher posted on the forums, quote, "We wanted to provide a quick update on our live streams going forward. The TLDR is that we will not be having a live stream for Season 10 PTR as we are focusing on revamping our live streams going forward, starting with the Season 10 launch. There will still be a blog and notes to accompany Season 10 PTR, so players can expect news on that soon. We've been evaluating feedback from players and internally have been wanting to revamp our live stream formats for quite a while, especially as we head into next year with the new expansion. We still want to have that developer interaction moment where players can hear directly from someone on the team during the PTR, so we plan on shifting our Discord Sanctuary sit-down to occur with our PTR patch notes / blog release. There'll be more news on that tomorrow, August 12th, for Season 10. We've hit the 30th stream milestone recently for Diablo 4, and we couldn't be more excited to kick off the revamped live streams with the launch of Season 10. They mentioned the feedback from the players and internally there, right? And I think things really came to a head with Season 9, where the Season 9 PTR livestream and the Season 9 launch livestream were almost entirely redundant with each other. The launch livestream basically just repeated everything said in the PTR livestream, with a couple new notes sprinkled in between, but it left many people who had already watched the PTR livestream feeling like this could have been an email. I understand why they did things that way, because the launch livestream is the bigger event, and there would be people watching the launch livestream who hadn't watched the PTR livestream and needed to be brought up to speed on all the new features, right? The launch livestream is their big marketing opportunity for the new season. So I do think it makes sense, therefore, to shake up the format, keep the launch live stream, and figure out a different way to do the PTR discussion. I think for maximum effectiveness for the launch live stream, they need to take a look at the format that GGG does with their Path of Exile expansion live streams. Start with a produced, pre-recorded segment that is a super sexy highlight reel going over all the new features with gameplay footage, 5-10 minutes tops. then move into the live discussion that expands on things, and then end with the Q&A. So instead of the regular campfire chat, we got this week the Sanctuary Sit Down, which was a live chat on the official Sanctuary Discord server with the D4 devs, hosted by community streamer Cliptus, who also streamed it on his own Twitch and YouTube channels. Now, there was an hour slot dedicated to this. Unfortunately, there were issues with Discord that delayed the start of the stream, which lost us 25 minutes. But still, in the remaining 35 minutes, we were able to get through a presentation on all the new content and squeeze in a couple of Q&A questions. I have my video recap going over the Season 10 reveal right here. I think the most exciting thing coming this season is the Chaos Armor, which are basically new unique items that open up a ton of new build combinations by basically embodying the spirit of Diablo 3's Kanai's cube slots. I think Season 10 will see the craziest builds emerge, a real meta shakeup. I'm also hyped for the Infernal Hordes upgrades, including the new Chaos Waves and their mini-game mechanics, and the new optional Bartuc boss fight at the end. Will his mechanics be as insane as the devs hinted at? We'll find out Tuesday when the test server begins. Do stay tuned for my coverage of that. I also covered in that video the Paladin leak that happened this week. On Blizzard's Content Delivery Network, or CDN, a build of Diablo 4 popped up that read 2.5.x Paladin. Now, my understanding is that Blizzard pushes things to their CDN for external testing purposes. With Gamescom happening next week, I think attendees will be getting a chance to try out the Paladin. Now, let's take a bit of a closer look at the patch nomenclature here. The X may refer to expansion, since we saw, I think Vessel of Hatred had a test build that also had an X in its name. But the next expansion should be patch 3.0, not 2 point something, since Vessel of Hatred was 2.0. Season 10 will be patch 2.4, so Season 11 ought to be 2.5. And we do know that they have multiple Diablo 4 dev teams, and they're working on 2 seasons simultaneously. So Season 11 is already in the works. That would be, again, patch 2.5. So I'm guessing that the demo at Gamescom will be running not expansion content, but just Season 11 baseline patch. Not, I doubt they're going to have Season 11 content when they're just showing us Season 10 content now, but whatever the patch logic, patch balance of 2.5 will be, but with the Paladin enabled for testing. Now, it's also possible that Paladin is just a code name or internal name. Blizzard does tend to use internal code names or placeholder names for its projects. Like Diablo 4 was originally called Fenris in the CDN. If Blizzard were adding a class similar to Paladin, but not quite the Paladin, like, the Crusader or Templar or something entirely new like Inquisitor or something, it's possible that they've just been internally calling it the Paladin while they settled on a new name. Still, this all but confirms that the Paladin or Paladin-like class is coming next, which most of us already expected. But for the doubters, meanwhile, on Twitter, Adam Fletcher confirmed that there will be more seasons prior to the next expansion, so don't expect a surprise Christmas drop for expansion 2. But I do imagine we'll get an actual release date next week at Gamescom. Moving on to Titan Quest 2 news, the early access title has sold close to 500,000 copies on Steam at this point, so it's doing quite well and shows that there's still a demand for good ARPGs, or at least good ARPGs that distinguish themselves enough from the major players like Diablo, Path of Exile, and Last Epoch. And Titan Quest 2 does exactly that. It does stand aside. It is carving out its own niche, or, well, it's not carving it. That niche exists and has been unfulfilled. So check out my early access review video for my full breakdown on Titan Quest 2. Now, last week, the devs also revealed their early access roadmap. They plan for major updates every 3 months, which is a good way of mimicking the seasonal cycle of other ARPGs without being a seasonal game. They'll be doing smaller updates like balance and bug fixing every month and a half, and hotfixes will be released as needed. They seem to suggest that the coming major updates will add a new chapter, a new mastery, as well as visual character customization. All great. In 2026, we can then expect new chapters, items, enemies, bosses, quests, masteries, the crafting system, looking forward to that, improved multiplayer, and more. I think for people who already bought Titan Quest 2 and played through its current content, it might be a good idea to wait for the full release at this point. But if you haven't bought it yet, then you may want to pick it up while it's still discounted, because the game does show a lot of promise. Assuming it's the kind of game for you. And again, to find out if it's the kind of game for you, check out my review video. Moving on to Path of Exile 2 news, we got the announcement of an announcement. August 20th at 1 p.m. PDT, the devs will reveal the full details of their next content update, titled The Third Edict. Meanwhile, we got a cool announcement trailer, which we can mine for a bit of detail. We see this weapon in the cinematic, also in the logo for the update's name, and we also see it in this concept art here. Now, we've actually seen this weapon once before. In 2023, at the end of this teaser here, we see what appears to be a corrupted Karui wielding this weapon. Now, they call this teaser the Nagama Kanui teaser. And Nagama Kanui is the homeland of the Karui people. So this all points towards Act 4 coming in this update, bringing us the new zone of the Karui people. And the character in the video wielding the weapon seems to be Hoko of the Tukohama tribe, as seen in this concept art, who will likely be the Act 4 boss. Now onto an update on the whole debacle of Steam and itch.io delisting certain games in response to pressure from payment processors. This is a story we've covered in the past couple of weeks. Bit of an update here. As expected, some safe-for-work games were caught in the crossfire and delisted from itch.io. Allegedly, such games had LGBTQ themes, but they weren't porn games in any way. So this furthers the narrative that this is part of a concerted effort to not just take away pornographic games, but to propagate specific moral and religious values. And again, payment processors should not be the ones deciding morality. It was also noticed that PayPal became entirely unavailable as a payment option on Steam in multiple countries. Valve's own website says, quote, "In early July 2025, PayPal notified Valve their acquiring bank for payment transactions in certain currencies was immediately terminating the processing of any transactions related to Steam. We hope to offer PayPal as an option for these currencies in the future, but the timeline is uncertain. We are also evaluating adding additional payment methods on Steam for the customers affected by this." And later, speaking with Rock Paper Shotgun, Valve confirmed that this was all related to everything else going on. Because some people were thinking, it's just unrelated issues. No, it's all the same thing here. Then in some Last Epoch news, this week was a hype week for Season 3. The Primal Hunt releases on August 21st. Every day we've been getting more and more details about the upcoming season, including the new Primal Hunt mechanic, which is a new random encounter similar to the Nemesis system. So while playing, you'll eventually run into a mysterious rift. Go in there, go through that, kill the rift beast at the end of it, and after defeating the rift beast, you can choose to spare one of its 3 babies. Each of these babies has a unique mutation. The surviving baby will grow up to be the next rift beast, and then you repeat this process of killing the rift beast, picking a baby to save, further evolving the rift beast's descendants with more traits of your choosing. Each trait has a physical manifestation, a gameplay power, and a customized loot reward. So you can pick an extra head that shoots magma, horns that give the beast a lightning attack, flowering vines that release poison pools, and the loot you get is what will lead you to being able to buy primordial items, which come in 2 main flavors, primordial uniques and primordial exalted items. You use runes of evolution to turn regular exalted items into primordial exalteds. Doing that will randomly change a T7 affix on the item into a T8 affix, which is actually an insane power jump of 50 to 100% extra power over the T7 affix. As for primordial uniques, as we previously said, they are extremely powerful but very build specific, not just generically useful uniques. And you can only ever equip at one time 1 primordial item, be it a unique or an exalted. Now throughout Hype Week, we also got a look at the new Lich skill, Flay, which is a melee spell attack hybrid skill that lets you spirit step as a gap closer towards the enemy before slashing at them. And each enemy killed by this slash will release a blood eruption, dealing area damage. The skill looks really fun. I'm pretty set on going Acolyte in Season 3, and at this point, probably Lich. There's lots of updates to both the Lich and Necromancer coming in Season 3. The Necro's Assemble Abomination is getting some love, for instance, and Minion AI overall, for Beastmaster as well, getting some great updates and quality of life. The AI is going to be smarter, and they're letting you become able to toggle your minions between the default kind of passive mode and a more aggressive mode that's going to seek out enemies further away. And it's just a toggle, so you can swap back and forth whenever you want. They've also fixed most of the snapshotting issues with minions. Snapshotting it's like a plague in ARPGs. It leads to such annoying playstyle, so this is a huge win. We also got more of a look at the new zones of the Ancient Era, as well as new monsters, which include dinosaurs, giant insects, evil plants, and more. It all looks beautiful. They just keep consistently upgrading the visuals of this game. Yesterday, we got the full patch notes for Season 3. I've dropped them in the comments if you want to peruse them for yourselves. What class or build are you folks planning to run in Season 3? Sound off in the comments. Because we're moving on to, well, you folks remember the whole Krafton lawsuit? Krafton, who now owns Last Epoch, also owns Subnautica. We previously covered the drama where Krafton fired the 3 studio founders of Subnautica, claiming basically gross negligence as they've been working on Subnautica 2. And these founders then started a lawsuit against Krafton, alleging that they were fired just so that Krafton wouldn't have to pay the $250 million bonus for releasing Subnautica 2 before the year ends. Well, the update is that Krafton has now replied to the lawsuit with new legal papers, alleging that the absence of the founders, the negligence that they've allegedly displayed in really not performing their duties, that this absence has negatively impacted the development team of Subnautica 2. Krafton alleges that the founders' early access release plan for 2025 would have only included 12% of the intended 1.0 release scope, and Krafton sarcastically remarked that at that rate, the game would take 30 years to finish. Basically, Krafton is defending itself, claiming that the delay was justified because the product would not have been up to standard. And, they just spent $500 million on what they hoped would be a franchise that will go on for many years across multiple sequels, not just outright die with Subnautica 2. This is, of course, in response to the founders claiming that they were fired so that the game could be delayed to 2026, and therefore they would not receive their $250 million bonus. Krafton is instead claiming that the founders were trying to release the game before it was ready just to get that bonus at the expense of damaging the company's goodwill. So, as I said a couple weeks back, this is going to be a major case of he said, she said. Normally you see stories like this settle out of court, but Krafton seems really pissed. We might see this go the whole 9 yards, with character witnesses coming up to speak for one side or the other. And speaking of lawsuits, we have an update on the Sony versus Tencent lawsuit over Tencent's game Light of MUSHRUM, which seemed to be a ripoff of Horizon Zero Dawn in a lot of ways. We spoke about this a couple weeks back. Now, in response to Sony's lawsuit, Tencent has quietly made a bunch of changes to Light of MUSHRUM's Steam page to make the copying less blatant. They've replaced a lot of the screenshots and art that looked very much like Horizon Zero Dawn with ones that look less like it. They've also changed the description of the game in Steam to sound less similar to Horizon's setting. So basically all the stuff that we were publicly able to point at and be like, hey, like this sounds and looks exactly like Horizon, they just change that out for different things that don't look as similar. But I imagine all the things that look similar will still be found in the actual game. It's just what's on the Steam page that's changed. So we'll see if this helps them out in court. Now lastly folks, I just want to mention the video I released yesterday about the new game in the works by Moonbeast. These are some veteran Diablo 2 devs who are working on a unique take on the ARPG. I got gameplay footage, definitely check it out. Because that's going to wrap up this video, folks. But be sure to check out last week's video in which we discuss Rod Ferguson leaving the Diablo team. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.